So I should be saying good morning, but I'm saying good afternoon. As people know, I always record these on a Sunday. I try to do them on a Sunday morning, hence the room, Sunday morning rant. But quite often I don't, for various reasons. And this morning's was a good one. This morning's was a very good one, because Paula Penguin, who is my friend's daughter, who is learning how to play keyboards and piano, who's recently been struggling a little bit with some of her practice pieces, came over with her keyboard and with my drum machine and my bassline machine, and we basically had a little bit of fun putting some of her practice pieces to disco beats and various bass lines and all kinds of funny things going on with them, and we recorded some of it, but ultimately it was fun. And that's the most important thing when you're learning music or when you're playing music, is it has to be fun. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? And I've always struggled with that. I had friends years ago who had children sort of similar age to my stepchildren, and they were almost forcing their children to play music of some description or other, and the kids hated it. You know, you've now got kids who are growing up not actually enjoying playing music or enjoying creating music. For me personally, playing music is the most relaxing thing I can do. I have a stressful job. I really enjoy sitting down in the evening and just playing for a couple of hours, or maybe not that long. I don't normally get that luxury to play for a couple of hours, but just playing. Something that just takes the stress out. And for Paula, being able to hear the practice pieces that she's been asked to do in a different way made it very fun for her this morning. She left here with a big beaming smile on her face and a memory stick with some MP3 files on it, which I think she was going to go and give to a piano teacher, which probably means I'm in the doghouse, especially given some of the classical pieces I've interrupted this morning. But it was fun. We both thoroughly enjoyed this morning, and that's the important thing about music. It has to be fun. If it's not, why are you doing it? Enough said. The other thing I've done before I started recording this, and I've just put the T1 back in its position here because it's been elsewhere, is I finally got round to finishing the pot install for the contrast on the new screen. Now, if you watch the video, if you haven't, I'll just give you a recap. But if you watch the video, you would have seen I left it in the base of the machine, not touching any of the sidewalls or components. And I did that temporarily while I was working out what I was going to do with it. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to use the existing potentiometer that controlled the contrast, which is actually mounted to the I/O circuit board inside the T1. Couple of problems. The first is that the two potentiometers have differing values for starters, so that was a bit of an issue. The second one is that the potentiometer sort of uses the aspect of the fact that it is on the main board and the screen is connected into another board somewhere else as the reason, as the where the variable current comes into allowed. I've just said that completely wrong. Where the voltage variation comes in, it's not current, it's voltage, to allow the screen to be darker or lighter. So I thought about, I've thought about this couple of things. I thought about desoldering the existing unit and soldering onto that. I've also thought about actually tapping the wires onto the main board, and I've sort of gone against that because I think I'd either damage the screen or I'd damage the board because the voltages and resistances are out of whack. I thought about putting a new unit on the board itself with a different resistance, which is comparable to the part I've got on it at the moment. And I can't really source that part. I mean, given the fact this stuff is 30 years old, some of the designs have probably matured, gone on, changed. And it's not so much the design of a potentiometer, because a potentiometer is a potentiometer. It's more to do with the fact that, the potentiometer design in terms of how the casing fits and the solder tags have all moved around. That's sort of what I'm getting at with that. So in the end, what I decided to do was I decided to effectively drill a hole in the back of the keyboard casing and pop it through and just secure it with the locking nut that comes with it. So that's what I've done. I did it this morning, and it seems to be working okay. And then I put a couple of cable restraints just inside the keyboard, just to keep the cables all out of the way. These are just sort of stick-on cable restraints you can buy at any do-it-yourself shop. But it just means that when you open the keyboard up, rather than the cables coming down and maybe getting caught in something else there around the foot of them and you foot of the circuit board, and you lifting them up and breaking it, they're now sort of secured in a way that you're not going to break it, and they're secured out of the way of any other sort of movable components, if you like. So that's what I did this morning. The other thing I was doing this week is, and I've got them here. I'm not going to really show you what they are at the moment, just sort of so you can see like bags of bits. There's some resistors, there's some chip holders, there's some capacitors, and there's some chips. And what I'm actually going to do is, on the FB01s, I'm actually going to do some modifications to the FB01s to change a couple of things. Now, two of the things I'm going to change is two of the op amps. And I'm doing that because these newer op amps are cleaner in terms of the way they work. I'm also going to change the capacitors and resistors, which should change where the frequency cutoffs work on the low bandwidth filter, if I've got that right. Because I was listening to a chap, and I can't remember his name, but I will give him full credit if I do a video to show you what I'm doing. But I listening to the guy and listening to the changes up before and after the modification, you can see a very nice crisp unit. Not the FB01 is not bad, but it's and basically what this guy's done is he's gone and got the original. I don't want to say service manual because that's wrong. Probably the original blueprints for the FB01, and seeing what Yamaha originally were going to put in there, and then changed their mind at the last minute. So actually, you've got the cutoff frequency is set at a different value to where Yamaha saw it should have been set. Now, why they did that, nobody seems to know, but everybody seems to accept that the modification itself actually makes the FB01 a much cleaner, crisper unit. So I'm going to be doing that this week, hopefully with a fair wind, putting these bits in, and I'll do a video showing you what I did. If you want to do it yourself, do it yourself. If you don't. But you know, this is sort of stuff I sort of quite enjoy doing, and it also makes the FB01 unit a much better unit to use. Now to the rant, or the second rant. eBay. Those of you who watch this channel know I have a penchant for crafty eBay bids, and I win quite a lot of my equipment on eBay. Quite a few bits of my equipment, when I acquire them, are shall we say, in less than operational condition, and I hopefully bring them back to life. So I've got several rants of several things that have gone on this week that really sort of annoyed me. Yeah, annoyed me is probably a good word. So the first one is, if you're going to sell something on eBay, right, if you put a buy it now price in, so for argument's sake you want £50 for it, if you put a buy it now price in, everybody knows that you want £50 for that piece of equipment, and if you don't give the vendor £50, you won't win it. It's as simple as that. It's cut and dry. Very clear. What I've noticed quite a few people doing recently is putting buy it now, £50, or make me an offer. Which sort of says to me, come back and suggest that you're gonna make me an offer. Now, if somebody says to me, make me an offer, you know, I want this amount of money and I'm only prepared to pay that amount of money, then, you know, we're gonna start haggling, and that's called barter. Everybody loves to barter. That's the whole idea. I think I've got a deal. you've got as much money as you wanted to get because you're selling it to me, and you've got there's been a bit of give and take. Everybody comes away from the deal with a happy smile on their face. But what I've noticed recently on eBay is there's been a bunch of sellers on eBay who put it on at a buy it now price, which is a bit daft, a bit high for what they're after, but have said make me an offer. And when I've gone in with what I think is a reasonable offer, given what other things on eBay are going for, I've then had quite a snotty response to the offer. Now, well, let's say sometimes I can be really cheeky with a bid and I expect to be knocked back. And so I expect somebody to say, no thanks, that's a bit low. What about this number here? And that number is, depending on how much this thing is going for, can be 5, 10, 15 pounds away from wherever their original buy it now price is. And then, you have one or two exchanges, and then I decide whether I'm going to buy it or they decide they're going to sell it, and we get on with it. But what I've noticed recently is there was a buy it now. The keyboard was in non-working condition. I thought I'd have a punt. I'd buy the keyboard and see if I could get it working. The individual had the keyboard up for £175, non-working I might add, with a whole load of bits with it. I went in and said, well, it's not working, I'll give you £50 for it, it's not working. And I had a really snotty response to that. Now what I'd expected them to come back and say, well, but it's not working, £50 is far too low, what about this? But because they gave me a snotty response, I thought, I'm not going to give you that. And I'm not going to bother even, carrying on with this conversation, because it's quite obvious to me that you don't actually know what you've got. You don't know how much it's really worth in a non-working state. Because, to be honest, if it's not working, it's worth not a lot. I mean, it's worth spare parts if you can actually take it to pieces and sell the spare parts separately. But it's not worth an awful lot of money. I mean, that's what we all know. Unless you can get it back to working condition, then it's not worth anything. And the discount effectively is my time and labour to get it back to working condition, and the parts and the care that I will put into that keyboard. But it just annoys me. Be courteous. Somebody is offering you an amount of money, all right, you don't accept it, but at least be courteous about it. The second thing on the buy it now and make me an offer is where you go in with an offer and they come back with an offer that is $1 or £1 below what they originally stated. How can that be make me an offer? That's not an offer. That's, well, I want exactly what I originally wanted for it and I'm not going to give. So why put make me an offer on it? You might as well just said, this is the price, I'm not prepared to budge. Don't put make me an offer on it then. People have funny ways of doing things. My way of doing things is I'm open and up front. So, where I knew the keyboard wasn't working, I went back to the guy and said, look, it's not working, it's spares only, as it currently stands, unless you can prove to me it's working. There's some people out there who have some very funny ideas about how much some of this legacy stuff is worth. And then I see other things on there. I mean, I saw a DX7 the other week, which was being advertised for £250, I think it was. And it looked like somebody had actually put the case through a shredder. The case was so bashed up and, the plastic mouldings were shattered. God knows what the innards would be, working like. In fact, I've actually rarely have I seen a keyboard in such bad condition being put on eBay at a price that is almost comparable with a decent copy of that machine. I think people need to be realistic about how much they can get for this stuff. But people are people, each to their own. What can you say? but it annoyed me. You know, I think it was what more annoyed me than anything else was the language that was used in the response. You know, which wasn't courteous. You know, let's face it, being courteous doesn't cost you anything, and it actually builds a rapport with people. So that's the first thing, being courteous. And the second thing is, you know, if you've got no intention of being in the bartering for, you know, make me an offer, don't put make me an offer on there in the first place, because all you do is you just get bad blood with somebody sort of making you an offer. And yes, they might come back and decide they're going to pay the full purchase price for you, but you know, if you're going to put make me an offer, that indicates that you're willing to barter. Enough said. I'm going to go for dinner. Hope you guys keep well, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. If you like the contents of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Apparently it helps the channel and allows other people to find this video a lot quicker. I'm sure by now, if you didn't like the contents of this video, you've already given me a thumbs down. If you want to be notified about future videos that are added to the channel, hit the subscribe button that should be appearing about here.